And you shall obey my order.
Alright, so this is going to be the gameplay showcase doing Abyss Risk Scarab strat, which has been my favorite strat. Before I go into this, I want to quickly mention that I dropped another Mirror of Calandra. Unfortunately, I had changed the settings on my GeForce experience, and so my instant highlight thing wasn't working, so I don't have a clip of it, and I can't technically even prove to you that I dropped it. So if there's people out there that was for some reason think I'm RMTing, there you go. There's your evidence. But what I will say is that the other one, I can at least hover this. This is on my instacking character, and I never thought to take it off and put it on this character, but that's proof that I picked up the other one from a natural drop, so at least you have that. Yeah, anyway, Abyss Risk Scarabs has been the strongest, like, high-end strat I've ever run. Like, honestly. I know I like just made a video not long ago about the essence farming being like so consistent, and that still is more consistent, but oh my god, is this stuff like over the top. As far as for like, I guess I'll just show the tree because this is what I'm going to be running for the sake of the thing too. I think for any future builds I make with this Abyss strat still being a thing, like obviously if it changes in the future, if it gets nerfed or something, then I won't do this as a demo, but I'm going to consistently use this as the mapping demo because it's a really good benchmark. And it's interesting because this character technically is one that I would consider somewhat on the side of characters you wouldn't want to do this strat with, only because it's kind of sensitive to certain mods, but basically, you just want to make sure that the map you roll doesn't have those mods, and those are like less AoE. Actually, I had to re-roll this one. I didn't even realize this. It has chance to avoid poison. If you have chance to avoid poison, or less AoE, or like chaos resistance could be annoying but it's runnable, or like less cooldown recovery rate, same thing. You want to re-roll it on the map itself because it will scale with map effect, but if the risk scarabs add it, it's okay because that doesn't scale with map effect. Okay, I rolled into Chaos Res on this one, but that's okay. I don't mind that. It's a good example. It's 179 currency. But yeah, so if you rolled less AoE or you rolled Avoid Poison, as a risk scarab modifier, it's only going to be that 50%. It's only going to be that, like, what is it for the less AoE? It's like 25. So it's much more runnable.
Leave now.
And yeah, so we've got Hexproof, which does also reduce the damage quite a bit. So Chaos Res and Hexproof. I'm probably missing like 40% DPS, but that's okay, it doesn't matter. We rolled 400 more currency, which is quite good. And because you're casting spells, when you're doing the Abyss Horde strategy, you do get them to auto-open. So, it's much more comfortable doing it on a spell build than an attack build right now. Yeah, keep in mind this is low DPS, and if you were wearing the Betrayal Sting ring, you would make up for a lot of DPS loss. That's one thing that's really nice about that ring, is map mods are going to do way less to you, because you're going to ramp to Dog Cap so much faster that your damage is going to like effectively be way higher for map mods that take your DPS lower. But I'll always prefer just, like, once I have a character that's this well established to this point, then like the damage is fine and acceptable no matter what mods I choose to run, then I'm just going to take the more defensive ring option. So, but if you want the DPS, you can wear the Betrayal Sting. Because that does work. This guy is... You know, I'm stealing a Soul Eater.
When I'm ready, and not before.
Yeah, this is what it looks like when you're doing shit mods. They also have 100% more life, so... But it's a good example. Like, I don't want to give you like a perfect scenario map as an example, because it's not realistic. You shouldn't... If you're farming this kind of thing, you shouldn't be looking to get perfect mods every time. It's about getting the currency. Massive Shine, it feels so good. I find volatile cores to be the most annoying map mod to run, just because you really want to stand still, right? And this thing spawns a lot of rares, so you just have to keep moving, and it's really cringe.
Rot consume you!
Yeah, it is important to mention. I guess I should have mentioned this. Like, if you've noticed, like, okay, they're hexproof, but it's still working. I don't really understand the coding behind it, but it just works. Even though you're not applying temp chains, like, officially, it still triggers Impending Doom, so... Just putting that out there. Hexproof does not brick you. Just makes you lose a lot of damage. A lot of damage. It might be the most damage loss that doesn't avoid poison. Because you're using Despair, which is like crucial, like so important. And then Punishment as well. But I mean, you can tell this shit's tanky, right? Like, I can just sit here through all of this And they do have mods. I mean, you've got a 184 Physis Fire. That's something. Did I take any mods? Just for Eldritch minions. And I just took one that gave 100% Physis Fire and Physis Cold, I believe, so now everything around me is even more so strong. I'll tank this mercenary too.
When I'm ready and not before.
He hit me. And you can see my HP barely moves. Also, crit mods won't do anything, you're always crit immune. Crit immune is free as hell on this build. Same with cold penetration and lightning penetration, that doesn't do anything. Negative lightning res, negative cold res, that doesn't do anything. Obviously CI, so no chaos damage matters. You've got like 30... I've got 32k armor, so small hits barely do anything. So when it comes to map mods and dying, that barely exists. You know, I mean, like every other energy shield character in the game, you're gonna have like some monsters remove X amount of life and or energy shield. That mod can obviously kill you because I can kill anyone.
Entropy claims all.
Okay, one more abyss. I did finally get to level 98 on this character. I was level 97 for like quite a while, but I was really limit testing and like trying to polish up the build. I still have a little tiny bit of polishing to do. I need to get 2 more % fire res max. And I think I'm going to do it on my body armor. I think Syrian Exarch implicit. I think it's this Exarch.
When I'm ready and not before.
I'm like really tempted to do a mirror body armor, but I kind of want to save my money for my next build because it's going to be expensive.
Axe and fury.
Okay, that is the map. I believe there's no more abyss, so yeah, there you go. That's a hard map in a way. It's hard in the way that it's slow. And obviously, if it takes longer to kill things, they have more time to hit you. But you can see that doesn't matter. So yeah. All right, so now I'm just gonna go over every piece of gear on the character, do a small little pass through the passive tree, and then I'll quickly hop into POB just to show the numbers that reflect that and how to configure the POB as well, just because. So I think it's pretty appropriate to start with the helmet. This Forbidden Shako is a necessary item if you want to play Impending Doom. It's honestly just an underperforming skill if you don't have at least like level 32 Impending Doom, which Impending Doom level 32 Shaco is like maybe a 10D right now. Going for 35 if you wanted to. I paid 200D. Yesterday I checked to see what was listed, and there was only one for 300. There was ones for less, but you have to make sure you're not getting baited, because the other gem link can break your Impending Doom. So, you know, if it says like Blast Chain Mine, it bricks everything. You have to like make sure that it's a gem that won't brick temp chains cast. So yeah, that's where you put your temp chains for Forbidden Shaco to proc Impending Doom. And I'll go into more detail about like how Impending Doom actually fundamentally works in my deep dive that I will have. I started working on it already. It's probably going to be a pretty long one, so it's going to take a while, I think, to make it, but the gem links for temp chains, you want to use just like classic poison stuff, awaken deadly elements, awaken unbound elements, and we use spell cascade, awakened, it's mandatory. And then the wand, I guess, is the next thing. And speaking of offense, I guess I'll go for offense first. That's what I'll do. That's how I'll handle this. So the Shaco is first for that. Then your wand, this is basically exactly the kind of wand you want. There is no like mirror tier synthesized base stuff for this kind of wand, so this is as good as it really gets. You can get the numbers slightly higher, of course, but there is a crafting process for this, which I will include in the deep dive. I won't include it here. This is just a short overview of the character, so and I'll do all the gems after the gear, I suppose. But okay, so that's offensive item number 2. I'll cover the amulet and the ring because they're both sort of offensive. If you're playing Elementalist Impending Doom, you don't need this modifier, the increased area of effective hex skills, which comes from Delve. You don't need that explicit modifier because you already scale so much AoE with your Flame Golem, so it already gets overlaps. But I prefer this just because it is still obviously just going to be slightly better map coverage, and it also allows you to not be hindered by the base value less AoE map mod. If you have a scaled one, like with map mod effect, it's still going to kind of ruin your Impending Doom overlap a bit. But if you have at least one of these really high rolled AoE of hex skills, it lets you run that map mod a lot more comfortably, so that's why I have it. As for crafting them, it's a little dependent on what you can get, and technically the best ring base to do is unset ring, and that'll be covered more in the deep dive, because there actually is like a pretty decent reason for it to be unset. But in my case, I don't need it to be unset, so I found this ring that had the AoE of hex skills, and I don't think it was well rolled. I think I divined it. But it also had the tier 1 dex and tier 1 int, and I was really looking for stats on my ring. That was what I needed the most. So I was like, okay, I'll just buy this one and reforge defense to get tier 1 max ES, isolate it, so it's the only prefix, which luckily I didn't have to do anything, it just became the only prefix. And then you need it to be a hunter ring. That's the most important thing. So I just hunter slammed it. There is no good hunter prefixes, so if you want to like try to make it a decent prefix with hunter, just don't bother. There is none. So you can see I got the exerted attacks mod, and then you just craft minus mana cost, and that's pretty much best in slot type of ring. And the other slot, this is a really important thing that I'll cover in the deep dive extensively. There's the ring Betrayal's Sting, which gives a % chance up to 40, and if you catalyst it, I think it's 46-ish, maybe 48% chance to apply an additional poison when you poison. Now, that ring is basically useful for one reason, which kind of like contributes to two things, and that reason is just like getting your poisons ramped fast enough to get you to dot cap as quickly as possible. That's number one. Which is why I'm not using it. But that also technically gives you more DPS in a lot of situations. So here's why I don't have it equipped. My character almost hits dot cap without it. Because like there is a situation in which your character, like if you're not this geared, won't be able to hit dot cap at all. But I hit like 36 million, it's like 2 million off. And I'm not really concerned about making up that 2 million. And I'm also not trying to remove all this ES. Like this is a huge chunk. This is it's just under 1,000 energy shield for this item. And because I'm not using Betrayal's Sting, I can craft -10 to total mana cost on this because the increased effective prefixes is here, and that means that I don't need to run Clarity level 1 to get minus mana cost on a Watcher's Eye, which opens me up for a new mod on my Watcher's Eye. And because I also don't need to have Clarity on, I can put the Lightning Golem that you don't need to use, but I like to use, in my body armor where the Clarity was, instead of wearing an unset ring. So that's kind of the whole like loop there. That's what's going on, and I think this ring is fucking awesome. I personally suggest getting one like this. I think I paid 40 divine for this. It's quite nice. And then the amulet is just a hunter amulet with 2 dot multi tier 1 mods on it. And then I just tried to find one that had max ES on it, so it has 18 max ES too. I don't remember how much I paid for this. As far as the anoint goes, you'll probably end up using toxic strikes for a while, unless you can get enough tattoos to not need to anoint it. You need to have 3 tattoos of poison on hit to make up for not using toxic strike. And once you can take it off, it's nice because you get some endurance charges, which helps mitigate even further in mapping. And then the only other offensive thing to mention on the gear is the gloves, because it's important for temp chains. So I'll just try to keep this as brief as possible, but basically you have an additional curse from these gloves. You get that modifier, and you also have one from your tree. That gives you 3 curses total. You're applying 4. Okay, so this is how Impending Doom works. You apply temp chains, and then this triggers socketed curse spells when you cast a curse spell. So every time we click that, every 0.25 seconds, which is lower actually, it's a lot lower because we scale cooldown and recovery rate. But either way, it triggers these in here, and so it's Enfeeble, Despair, and Punishment, and it goes in order. And you use Awakened Spell Cascade because there's like a slight delay for the overlaps. And so when you use Awakened Spell Cascade, it causes you to strip temp chains many times, like multiple times per cast. And when you strip temp chains, that's when Impending Doom procs. And you get like a massive flat chaos damage explosion spell that's poisoning. And so that's how this works. You have a spell cascade here too, so you can see what that looks like. If I take off cascade, you can see that's the AoE, which is quite tremendous. You scale AoE a lot on this character, and then so when you put these on, it turns it into more than your entire screen, and also causes, you want the circles to overlap basically as much as possible, and you can see that's happening a lot in the center of mine because I have so much AoE, it's overkill at this point. But yeah, so that's how the actual interaction works. And then the boots, like, you can kind of just find whatever pair works for you. I think the important thing on these boots is that you get the cooldown recovery rate. So like if you had to pick budget wise, get the cooldown recovery rate. It's the best of the mods on the boot. So that's that. And then this, actually I'll cover that in a second because this is mandatory. Body armor is just as much ES as you can get Twilight Regalia, and then whatever suffixes you can get that are useful. This one's actually pretty bad. Like, it has really good ES. Not really good, but good enough ES. But the suffixes are basically useless. Slight stats. I'm really considering getting a mirrored body armor because it'll take me to like 9600 ES and give me like a lot of stats, but it's like I don't want to do that. It seems like it's unnecessary, but either way, this is just like a decent item. And then you just use a Mage Blood. I mean, this is the thing, and this is one of the reasons it's going to take me a while to make this deep dive, because I don't think this character has to be Mage Blood. And also, there is a Pathfinder variant of Impending Doom. It's like the OG Impending Doom, but it does not get to the level that this one gets to. But it's a much, much more budget-friendly character because you don't even use Mageblood on Pathfinder. And once you have the kind of currency that you would have a Mageblood, you can then buy a Progenesis and get double the effect of the Progenesis because you're playing Pathfinder, and then you become pseudo-tanky. You're pretty tanky on Pathfinder, but it's nowhere near this level of tank. The level of tank on Elementalist here is it's just absolutely insane because of the tech we're using. So that's the gear. As far as auras go, you got Determination for some armor. I have Lenten 4, Flesh and Stone, just damage reduction, Purity of Fire, which I'll go over in a minute, and Arctic Armor, because you're like standing still while you're doing that, so Arctic Armor is really good. Side note, Arctic Armor and Flesh and Stone, they both aren't technically auras, so if you have less aura effect on your map, it doesn't matter for those, only for Determination and Purity Fire. As for the golems, you prioritize Flame Golem, Stone Golem, and Chaos Golem. If you want to use Lightning Gem or Golem, you have to get an extra socket somewhere. I do like it. Mana regen just guarantees I never have mana problems at all. And cast speed's just good. I could probably take off the Silver Flask now, but I'm just not doing it. So I want the movement speed. It just feels good. So you can do a Jade Flask with evasion suffix somewhere on your flasks, and you can take Ghost Shrouds if you wanted to, but I found it kind of useless because you only get like slightly over 10k evasion. You maybe could fit in Grace on a Merc somewhere somehow. If there's one that can have Grace and Malevolence, then like maybe the Toxicist can do that. I'm not sure. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about the shield. Also, I have Automation, Convocation, and Molten Shell. Convocation just keeps the golems alive more often, and Molten Shells because they have armor. So the reason this shield is being worn, and I guess I'll first talk about the Watcher's Eye. So this shield is 20% of cold and 20% of lightning is taken as fire. And obviously I got a decent roll on Fizz too, just because it's nice. And then you get a Watcher's Eye that's 20% of cold and lightning taken as fire while using Purity Fire. So that's 40%. And then you use a Timeless Jewel, Lethal Pride with Rakiata, and it gives you Tempered by War, which is another 50%. So you're up to 90, and so you're left with 10%. And that 10% would be enough to kill you if you got touched by anything, while you have this low res. So the way that this is fixed is with some new tech this league. And by the way, this is basically as efficient as using the Sublime Vision with the Purity of Fire mod on it, aka the over 1 mirror jewel. Okay, this is the same power level. It's just that some builds can't fit it in because they don't have room for influence items. But we do. So you use this new Bound by Destiny jewel, and you can read the second line. 10% of elemental damage taken as chaos damage if 400 items are equipped. And we have 4 items, and that makes that last 10%. Not only is it mitigated, and so you have the full conversion, but it actually is completely mitigated because you are chaos immune. So it's even better. Super, super nice. It feels so good. What this lets you do is have no lightning and chaos res. You literally, or cold res, lightning and cold res, you literally don't care. And you just stack as much fire as you possibly can. Now, it is really easy to get to 90%. Later today, I'm going to actually do it to my body armor. You just get +2 to max res on body armor. It's the easiest slot to do it with because this is not influence, so you can actually have the Eater and Exarch implicits. So that's great. That's the most good defensive thing about this character. It opens up so much room for your gear to have the things you need that aren't resistances. And then also, because you're playing Elementalist, if you don't have Profane Bloom, Forbidden Flame, and Fetch, which costs about 40D combined to 50D combined, it's one of the two at the time. It's not the most expensive combo, but it is expensive. If you don't have that, your clear is going to be complete dog shit. So I super, super recommend that you, when you're considering if you want to do this character or not, that you keep this in mind, that you need these, because you do. Or else there's no point to play the build. I use Storm Shot for my mitigation, or ailment avoidance, I should say. with shock on my flask. You can probably get it some other way, but that's how I do it. Then you use the light immuning with chaos damage. This gives about 25% of your damage total with unnatural instinct over here. So all of these nodes are giving you chaos damage. Also, this cluster right here is really important. AoE of hex skills, reduced mana cost of curse skills, and then another 50% AoE of hex skills and 20% reduced cost. You'll notice mine costs 2 mana with all the stack, which is more than enough of a cost reduction. You'll always be full mana. And you're also triggering these, so you want these to be 0 mana, basically. So they're all 0 mana cost. So it's like completely free. And then also, if you wanted to get, again, I'll cover more in the deep dive, but if you wanted to get Corrupted Blood immunity, this is the cheapest way to do it. Because you really don't even have room for Rare Jewel. So you need it on a unique jewel, and because there's no useful Lethal Pride modifiers for the build, all that matters is that it says Rockiata. And so I picked this one up for 5D. You can expect to pay even less than that, honestly. There was a lot listed that just weren't online. Yeah, it's like expect to like pay 3D to get your Corrupted Blood immunity. It's really easy. But yeah, there's literally no modifiers that this thing can give you that's useful. And then there's this jewel, which is insanely strong. You're casting temp chains as your damage, right? So you always have both these things. You get the action speed immunity thing that Trickster and Juggernaut both get, which feels so good, especially if you're doing T17s or you're doing Risk in general. And then you also get cooldown recovery rate. 25 is the max. You don't have to have this max. I think I paid 10 divine for this max roll. Yeah, it's not the most expensive thing, and you'll definitely want it. So this is another thing I'll say, keep that in mind as if it's something that you need to be playing with. I forgot to mention that this thing also has 2 Shaper items equipped. It gives you 20% cooldown recovery rate, and we have it with our gloves and our boots. Those are the 2 that you will have. So yeah, that is the jewels. And then there's a few rune grafts. We use reduced attributes, global defense increase. We don't really care about attributes very much. 15% reservation efficiency, and the second line doesn't matter because we don't care if they have armor. And I think that's the only one they get, right? They get purity of fire, so they get fire resistance and they get determination. So who cares? Just free reservation efficiency. And then obviously this one, 20% chance for skills to not consume a cooldown on use. So in combination, this rune graft with this Bound by Destiny jewel, this is a pretty substantial buff to Impending Doom. To this league, just those 2 things together. So that's nice. And then I also did max ES tattoos on every int that I could before I didn't have enough int. So these are kind of expensive. You don't need to do this at all. They're like almost a 1D each. Yeah, so that's the tree. And that's the gear. So now I'll just go into POB. Okay, I just spent time talking without actually being on the POB. Let's do it again. So this is the POB, and I want to touch on a couple things that are important when configuring Impending Doom. First thing is your ES regen number is inaccurate because it's thinking that you're degenning from Frost Shield, which you never actually really are. So this is the real number, 850, with my Merc having Shaper Seed. But then I keep this toggled because this is the number that you'll actually have, because you'll have this up the entire time. If you want to have this up for boss fights, you can have it up for the entire fight, no matter what. And you can keep clicking it because you have cooldown recovery rate. But here's the most important thing. So you have a max curse limit of 3. And so when you are in POB, things get weird. Because you have 4 curses. So I don't know if it's temp chains or if it's the first curse in your gloves that get overridden during the time of Impending Doom. As in, like, I don't know if it's temp chains or enfeeble that is active on them. But I think enfeeble is the one that will be active. So these are your 3 curses. So you would naturally say, well, temp chain should be the one that should be in the gloves then, because you want temp chains on it because you're poison. But the issue is that if you do that, you don't get the benefits of that balance of terror jewel, which is too good to pass up on. And if you were curious, Enfeeble does not have any useful ones. Enfeeble is not a good one. So there is no balance of terror mods that's good for Enfeeble. So what you have to do, because if I try to take off temp chains, it gets confused because it says now that Impending Doom has no thing to trigger off of. So I have to uncheck Enfeeble, and then it gives the almost correct damage number. But it's slightly less because you're not using temp chains, right? So it's slightly less than this number here, like 26 mil or something. But yeah, that's what's happening there, and that's why it's untoggled. And I have Malevolence here because it's on my Merc. And actually, Malevolence should be stronger than it is in here. Because I have like 80% Malevolence effect on my Merc, so that's another thing too. It's that's why I don't try to fix anything, because it's like, well, the temp chains curse being active, or having this like backwards or whatever, I'm missing a little bit of DPS. I'm also making up for some of that DPS with the Merc, so I'm just not really adjusting it. So this is about the right damage, basically. But that's why this is here. It's a Merc thing. And then I have regenerate 4% of life per second from D-Shape Proceed. And she's technically also wearing this, which does give slight damage to me. And there's also this. I did calculate for the -10 to all resistances, but I did not calculate for the added damage, so that's like slightly better poisons too. And then yeah, you can see there's like Malevolence effect, Malevolence effect, Malevolence effect. I can get it on the belt too, I just haven't done it. As far as boots and gloves go, I don't know what to put there yet, so these are just like placeholder items basically. And then comes binding, I also don't have that typed in, so we have a slightly bigger fizz max hit than what it says. Also, when you're on full energy shield, you have a even higher because you have the mastery. And yeah, here's like the config. So Vixen's Curse, you're having 5 overlaps. You always have max frost shield stages. If you've just placed it, you're in sand stance. You have tailwind basically all the time, especially if you have a frost shield, it increases your crit chance, and your boots are giving you tailwind. Yeah, crit me recently. You get 15 wither stacks like almost instantly, because withering step gives 9 or 8, I think 8, but because you have so much cooldown recovery rate, it's only like a 1.5 second cooldown. So, and sometimes the mastery will, or the rune graph will even proc, and you just get to press it twice instantly. You always have 15 on any single target you're doing. Enemies cursed, enemies poisoned, enemies ignited, because we have the Elementalist node that makes it ignite, and they're also shocked for 25% more damage. By the way, that number actually goes up. Some bosses I get a 50% shock, which is crazy. I don't really understand how that's happening, but that's kind of nice. In that situation, you can see the DPS, it's like 3 million DPS bonus. Enemies on consecrated ground, because you are using bottled faith, and it has the use when you hit a rare or unique enemy, so it just always uses it at the right time. So that's the config. Pretty simple. Also, this is normally 30 chaos res, but I put it to 20 because of my Merc with the -10 to all res. So those are the stats. And then here's like the actual numbers, right? Like this fizz max hit, it's slightly higher because of the belt on the Merc, but this is a really solid amount of fizz max hit. Honestly, it's pretty substantial. I don't really die to fizz hits because I have enough armor to deal with the small ones, and then this fizz max hit is like tremendous. So yeah, it's great. And the alley max hit can go even higher once you have that extra 2%, of course. And then yeah, armor, pretty good. Decent amount of block chance. I have a little bit for my Watcher's Eye. I got a really good Watcher's Eye. Dot multi, malevolence, the mandatory purity fire node, and then also 8% attack block on Determ. I was hoping for flat armor, but it didn't exist, so I took this one for 45D. Yeah, those are the defenses. I mean, it's really, really solid. You have really good, and you're also leeching, right? So you're leeching and you're regenning 800, this number being wrong. So yeah, that is the POB for my character. And I will also explain how to get Shaper, Hunter, Vixen's Entrapments on the deep dive, but for now it is going to remain a mystery to you. So yeah, be ready for the deep dive. It's coming soon. How soon? I don't know. We'll see.